What's up, guys? Mikkel here, and today we're talking Palantir stock. I just recorded this entire video with no volume, so let's run it back. Guys, recently you've been blowing up this channel. Thank you so much. Keep subscribing. It really helps me out a lot and is going to encourage me to push out more content in the future and just dedicate more and more time to making these videos. But anyway, guys, thanks for all you're doing, and let's jump into Palantir stock. So I want to do a quick breakdown of what's been happening with the Palantir chart recently and really go through its history, because at the end of the day, all stock prices are emotional market cycles of buyers and sellers. So if we better understand what was happening with the stock price in the past, we might be able to judge where it will be going in the future. So if we take a quick look at Palantir stock right here, right when it hit the market, it really exploded. But to be honest, when it first IPO'd, not a lot of people really understood what Palantir was. I was in a lot of early groups, and a lot of people were very misinformed of what Palantir was doing. And I really think it took ARK Invest coming out and publishing a lot of research to where people really started to put together what Palantir was doing, how ahead of the other competition they are, and what they're going to be looking to do in the future. Guys, if you guys want to know more about Palantir stock, make sure you check out my other video where I really break into their business model and what they're doing. So Palantir came into the market and kind of blew, after people started to understand what they were, they really blew up and kind of consolidated into this $26 range. Created a symmetrical triangle where it eventually exploded out of it, where it really just overran itself and eventually crashed all the way back down over 50%, down to around $16. As soon as it hit the $16 range, it really flipped around, and it really looks like that was the bottom, and then it started to grind on this uptrend until it recently popped back out of this resistance. If we take a look at the chart, it was descending for a while, but I think this was really an inflection point where now it's really looking to create a new trend and start trending upwards. I thought it was really critical that it popped out of this resistance, and it did, and I'm really looking for Palantir now to maybe base out a little bit right here before it pushes back up into new all-time highs. Palantir is a company I really like, and I really do think it's going to become a tech giant in the future. If you look at past tech giants like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, they really tend to trend upwards for most of their history, and I would not be surprised if Palantir went on to this trend where it eventually pushed to the high $60 range and then kept pushing upwards with relatively smaller retracements, and during its IPO, this will probably be one of the more volatile times of its history. For that reason, I'm going to continue to slowly add Palantir shares. I already have a pretty nice position built. I would love for it to come back and touch this trend line again, where I'd add some more, but outside of a massive market crash, where this could go down who knows how much, it would break all technical supports, but I don't really see it going below these resistances, and yeah, I think it probably continues to uptrend from here because it really hasn't done much for a while. So why do I think, so what are the fundamentals that are going to allow it to break up to these new levels? And that's very important to understand, so make sure you guys stick around for this. But Palantir is actually really changing its entire business model, and I think this is going to allow it to grow much bigger and much faster than it has been in the past. So let's jump into that real quick once I find the tab. Yep, here we go. And yeah, so one of the most important things that's happening with Palantir right now is they're really transitioning away from their government contracts and more towards commercial contracts. This is really important because government contracts really only get a company so far. Government contracts, they typically are lower in value because you're dealing with someone who you go to the government and they say, we want to do this deal, and they're like, we'll give you this much. It's not really like, no, we'll do it for this much. It looks good to be working with the government. Yeah, it's just one of those things where there's not a ton of growth, but you still there's solid contracts. It's just that there's a lot more opportunity in the commercial side. And very interestingly, Palantir really started its business only working with governments and is now slowly expanding into the more commercial sector. This is massive because they already have such a massive business right now only working with governments, and their customer base can now expand exponentially as they get into all the different customers and commercial businesses out there. So we look right here, and U.S. commercial revenue grew 90% year over year. This is massive because this really just backs up what I'm saying, and it's showing that they are adding a lot of commercial accounts and not moving away from governments, but starting to look outside of governments and where they can expand the business from there. Additionally, something that I thought was really good is their commercial customer count increased 61%. One of the biggest things with these software companies is it's all about getting customers on the platform. When you have a great product, once you get a customer on the platform, they typically stay on the platform for an extended period of time. It's not like retail sales where you sell one thing and suddenly it's like, oh, well, I don't need that anymore, and suddenly you have to look for a new customer. These are typically recurring revenue streams, and when you have a great product like Palantir does, people tend to, once they incorporate something to their business model, they don't want to fade it out really because they become so used to it. Rather than getting rid of it, they tend to add more and more of it into their platform, and that's why it really matters that Palantir is such a great company. They have such a great artificial intelligence stack that the more and more companies start using the Palantir platform, once they hook, say, X amount of customers, well, say that X customer is spending on average $10 when they first got into it. Maybe 5 years down the line, if they really enjoy the experience, which I think they will because Palantir is such a great company, they might be spending $50. So those are two easy ways that Palantir can drastically increase its customer count, but also create more revenue off each one of those customers. And very interestingly enough, Palantir is doing almost $1 billion in revenue on only 149 customers. That's pretty insane, and it really shows you that most of the deals Palantir are doing are pretty massive. And actually, if you look at some of the deals, most of them are around the $7 to $8 million range, and that's really unprecedented for a software company. It shows that their software is really valuable and really differentiated from everything else out there. I do think these contracts are going to come down in time as their product is more tailored towards businesses all over, but they're still going to have very high value contracts, and it really just shows how important the Palantir system is that they're actually able to pull this amount of money out of its customers. I think it's actually really good that Palantir will probably create some different products that maybe might not be as in depth, but that companies with less money can still utilize their platform and still get some of the great results. I just really like seeing how big and how much revenue they're doing and how few customers they have, because it really shows that they have a massive room to expand within the current market share that's currently present. But not only that, but one thing I always try to press on my channel is I love investing in sectors that are growing rapidly with the businesses in them, and that's something I want to get into quick. So right now, the artificial intelligence software market is currently growing by about 54% year on year. This is something I love to see because I would rather have a company I just like to own companies that are growing in sectors that are also growing. Let me give you an example for a second. Say a fast food restaurant. Most of the people who eat fast food, enjoy fast food, already know about fast food. So therefore, and an established fast food player, let's say McDonald's, they're really not going to gain that much new market share coming in, because even though the population does increase, typically people are eating healthier right now. So just for argument's sake, let's say that the market has been relatively flat and will be flat for the next 10 years in terms of growth. Well, then that requires McDonald's, for the only way for McDonald's to grow is to take market share from other companies, or for them to increase the amount of revenue they're getting off of each customer. Palantir can do both those things, but they also increase from the fact that the amount of market share they're able to grab each quarter, each year, is growing exponentially, and let me show you that real quick. So currently, say Palantir, and this is just a random number, say Palantir had half the market in 2021. Well, if you take that same amount, say they still have half the market in 2025, they have drastically more revenue coming in just because the sector underneath them is growing so much, so fast. As Palantir is growing its own company, the market around them is getting bigger and just making it way easier for them to expand their business because the overall need for their product is increasing. This allows them to not only get more money from each customer, increase their customer count, take market share from their customer, but also the overall market underneath them is getting bigger. And honestly, Palantir will be one of the best companies in this space, so I just think it's a must-have company in my portfolio. Overall, I love what Palantir is doing, and I think there's a ton of growth catalysts going for it that is going to allow the stock to really expand back to all-time highs and create new ones in the growing future. I love what's going on with the fundamentals, and I think the technicals are looking pretty good as well. I really like this base they've supported, and I like that it's breaking out. Not only that, but they are growing their customers fast and really expanding into a market they haven't been in yet that I think will really allow them to really change the story in the amount of revenue they're bringing in. They're already doing great. I just think the more commercial players they add and the more they make their system accessible to everyone, the better and better they will be for the future. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to more. Like I said, you guys have been killing it. Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Subscribe to the channel, and for now, Mikkel out.